Hi again, everyone. I'm Ollie Matthews. This is the Narcissistic Resistance. And this resistance video is sponsored by contribution from Treasure Travel. And here is her story. The history of the histrionic. My sister, Jane, is a histrionic narcissist. No shit. I've been telling you that for years. Ollie, you saw that in my letters, even the earlier ones, which were not specifically about her, and frequently included my excuses and denials of her weird behavior. Yeah, I mean, I was good at calling out. I'm pretty good at calling that out. Like when I see what you're trying to avoid the issue or make excuses for people. But I did the same thing. I used to do the same thing. I was guilty of it with my brother and with other people. Okay? Because you don't want to face the reality of what that narcissist is, of what that person is, of you can't help them, you can't save them, okay? They don't want to be saved. They don't even like you. They hate you. Even though they don't say they hate you, they hate you. I did not see what you saw because I did not want to. In those early letters, I also expressed my concern and compassion for her as the firstborn and scapegoat to our horrendous parents, and I always blamed them for her shitty behavior, rationalizing that they brought out the worst in her. Right, as children. This is the thing, and this is what I've been saying the entire time of this channel. Okay? I will keep repeating this over and over and over again. Yes, they were abused at some point. Yes, they were victims at some point. But at some point, they're making a fucking choice. At some point, they're gonna say, they're at that crossroad, and they can say, hey, I can reject this and figure out how to fix it, or I could use it to my advantage and get some pleasure out of it. Okay? The weak person takes the pleasure route. Okay? Because they're not strong enough to take that left turn. Or whatever direction you want to call it. To take that other route. Because they know what's coming. You know what's coming with taking that other route. Is dealing with the histrionic. You'll lie to yourself. You will lie to yourself. You will make yourself convince things that aren't true, that you can fix things. You will lie to yourself about how that abuser really feels about you. Why? Just so you don't have to deal with the histrionics. The histrionics are a bludgeoning tool. Of course, their unrelenting bitterness brought out the worst in everyone, but my sister's childish and manipulative adult behavior cannot all be blamed on them. Yes, they programmed her with lots of malware since birth, but as an adult, she's responsible for her own behavior, and like all narcissists, she has full control of her words and actions. Exactly. Sadly, I now understand that her bitterness towards me comes from a deep place and needs no inciting from them. Right. Understand something. She hates you. She has made the decision in her soul, in her heart, in her gut, whatever you want, to hate your guts. This is your enemy. Just like your mother and father are your mortal enemy, your sister is your mortal enemy. They all have the same goal. I almost used your name again. They all have the same goal, is to see you destroyed, to see you broken, to see you beaten, to see you not standing up to their bullshit. Your sister, a lot like my fucking brother, was real good at throwing you crumbs of acknowledgement, crumbs of validation that meant fucking nothing. But when you really need her, when you really needed it, when the going was going to get tough and it was going to be a hard road, they're nowhere to be fucking found. They're leaving you on the side of the road to fend for yourself. if not running you over, throwing you under the bus, and then driving over you with it. Just like my brother, just like Precious, his behavior needed no inciting from them. He makes those decisions on his own. He thinks them out. He calculates them. He plans them, just like your twat of a sister does. Deep down inside, she resents me. Glad you figured that out. She hates you. She hates you. She hates everything you're about. And look, I'm not trying to place all the blame on her because I am also damaged goods. Fuck that, man. See, this is what we got to stop saying. We also got to stop with that self-deprecating bullshit where, yeah, I'm damaged. I had things. Yeah, we got that. That's why we're here. Fuck that. That's not what it's about right now. It's not about you. It's not about what damage you may have. It's about what she did. So stop bringing in. We're not talking about you here. We're talking about her. So stop deprecating yourself along the way. See, the goal here is to, and we all have this problem, me included. They hate us. And in turn, we think we hate them. And a lot of us do. We hate them. But, it's coming more and more to the to the conclusion that hating them is not the answer. Hating them keeps you, because it's just another fire emotion that's going to just keep you in that fog, keep you down that fucking rabbit hole. It's just going to keep you there, that hatred. So if not hatred, then what do you need? You need to understand them. I don't hate you. I understand you. That's how I have to. I don't hate my father. I understand him. I don't hate my ex-wife. I understand her. And what I understand is they are my mortal enemies. I don't hate my brother. I understand him. I understand he is my mortal enemy. I understand having any of them in my life or around them is completely toxic. We have to come to an understanding of these people. Not a hatred, not a resentment, and that's a fucking hard hurdle. Based on what most of them done to us and continue to do to us. You got to understand them. You can't let the hatred blind you. And that is tough. And I don't mean you're not angry, because your anger is righteous. And even your hatred may be righteous. It's still detrimental to you. Say, no, I don't hate you. I understand you. I understand you're some kind of fucking demon who hates me and has to destroy everybody and everything in your path. And I understand that I can never, ever, ever allow you into my life again. Understand the narcissist. But do not. We all have to stop this. Like, I have my faults, and we know that. Nobody is fucking perfect. But that's what we end up having to defend our whole lives. We have to defend ourselves for not being perfect. It's not like, we got these major fuck-ups. You weren't allowed any mistakes. Most of us. Any mistake. You're blown up for your mistakes. You're blown up for your accomplishments. I mean, no wonder. No wonder. We got it. We know we're damaged goods. We got it. That's why you're here. That's why we're all here. It ain't about us. Us being damaged goods. It's about what they did and their behavior. My competitiveness and bullying of her in our childhood and my negative adult anxiety certainly contributed to the void between us. For 3 decades, I guess I was subconsciously in denial about the flaws of our adult relationship because I so desperately wanted to believe that despite my horrible parents and my brother going no contact with all of us, at least I had a sister. Yeah, there is no at least I have in going no contact. There is no, at least I have. That's what I thought. At least I have whoever. All that means is that's going to be the last person to fucking stab you in the back. That's going to be the last person to throw you under the bus. That's going to be the person that's going to try to make you feel completely alienated from everyone. Because when at least I had my sister, or at least I had my brother, or at least I had my cousin, or at least I have, finally does what they do and turn on you, then what? I got nobody, and maybe if I thought this person agreed with me and then they don't, maybe I'm the asshole again, and which is what it's designed to do. There is no at least I have with anybody in that narcissistic circle. It's done. It's done. In this letter, I recall various situations that I now see to be diagnostic of my sister's textbook histrionic narcissism. They represent a pattern of behavior rather than rare occurrences. And I conclude by discussing how this all predicts that she would inevitably want no contact with me. When she wrote me the mean email 2.5 years ago announcing that she wanted to be no contact with me, citing that it was because I was uncompassionate toward our parents, I was stunned. I did not expect it. I thought we were finally having deep conversations about the truth and validating each other more and more over the last few years and increasing our bond, and then she viciously turned on me. Sounds real familiar to me. Sounds real familiar. That's why at least I got somebody. Listen, the entire time, you have to know somewhere in the back of your mind that this person can turn on me. You're waiting for it. You're not altogether stunned when it finally happens. You're just not. I initially thought that she pushed me out of her life because she did not want to acknowledge the painful fact that the emotional child abuse we suffered was purposeful. Although I am sure that was part of it, I now understand there was a more fundamental force that repelled her from me. After she announced her no contact status with me, I continued to drop her friendly short emails for 2 years. There were just a couple lines saying, "Hi, hope you're doing well." If she wanted no contact with you, you should have just let it be. Should have just let it be. They did not demand any response, and I did not expect a response. I thought of them as little olive branches, and I sent about a dozen of them because I hoped to leave the door open for a possible reconciliation. There came a time when I stopped abruptly because she had not responded to any of them, and I needed to stop and completely respect that she really wanted no contact. Interestingly, though, after not contacting either one of my adult kids for 2 years, she called each of them out of the blue. She could have called my kids at any time after going no contact with me, but obviously she was not interested enough to do so until I stopped extending olive branches. I could be wrong that this was strange, but the timing was suspicious. No, of course it's suspicious. Because as long as you're dropping those little olive branches, which is why you should have never done it in the first place, because you gave her time to mask her true intentions, she's just trying to get you under control and punish you more. Why? Because she hates you. There's no coincidences with the narcissist. There's no coincidence. There's no coincidences with these people. There's none. There is none. And here's what's particularly suspicious. When she talked to one of my kids, she suggested to them that she intended to join our family for an upcoming celebration. The celebration is a few months from now. Okay. What's the celebration? Because if you're in no contact with your family, with your parents, where is she where does she think she's going? Where are you going? Where did you see her? I won't go into the details of this event, but seriously, how would she imagine that she would just seamlessly insert herself into one of our upcoming family celebrations after not speaking with me and Greg for 2.5 years and barely speaking to my kids? Because she's a histrionic borderline with fucking entitlement issues. That's why. This is her way of communicating to you and saying, look, treasure. Okay, I'm still in fucking charge. Okay, I'll talk to your kids when I want. I'll show up at your events when I want. Okay? Don't think you're going to stop contacting me. Okay? Just because you're not contacting me. Like, she wants to reject your emails. That's what was getting her off. She's bullying you. This is exactly what this is. She's bullying you through your kids. Was her plan to break bread with us at our table and just not look or speak with me? I would think it would have crossed her mind as an adult that this would be awkward, to say the least. Is she planning to call or email in advance to break the ice, so to speak, or is her plan to just arrive and pretend all is well? I think she is imitating the weird, socially ridiculous actions of our dad Joe, which I have outlined in Ali's video titled "The Narcissist Does Not Understand What Emotion Is," because my dad needs to believe that he is a loved family guy and sometimes needs to play fake happy family, so when he snaps his fingers, everyone has to fall in line and join in the glass of wine or meal, regardless of the fact that he was the Raging Hulk the minute prior. No apology, no discussion, and no one allowed to assert any basic boundaries. Just everyone fall in the line or be violently accused of disrespecting the patriarch or being overly sensitive or being crazy. So, your sister has taken over for your father. He has stolen the narcissistic football from him, okay, with his histrionic outbursts. And what people like your father and your sister, what histrionics are fucking banking on is, you know this bitch is histrionic. You know she's going to freak out, okay? It's like a threat. It's like her holding an imaginary gun to your head as she shows up. She's like, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? What are you going to do? What are you going to do, treasure? What are you going to do? You're going to say something to me, and I'm going to freak out, and I'm going to destroy your day, and I'm going to destroy it all. What are you going to do? What are you going to do? That's what your father does. That's what your father does. Who has the balls to call me out? Who has the balls to call me out? That's the game they play. Because in a normal, civilized society, you don't have fucking melees in public. And you don't have melees at a family dinner. And you don't have melees in front of fucking people where you don't want to air your dirty laundry. Oh, no. You need to call this histrionic heifer right now and be like, You are not coming anywhere. Like, what makes you think that you're going to decide to walk into my house, sit at my table after disrespecting me for 2 fucking years, okay? And I would call her right out on it. You aren't coming anywhere near here. And if you show up here, you're going to be going out with the fucking cops. Not welcome. And how dare you call my children behind my back? How dare you? And decide what you're going to come do at my house. Same entitlement as your father. The same fucking entitlement over your life, your children, your events, your special days. Nothing changes. Fuck this bitch. Histrionic hose bag. Look, and this is nothing new for you. I mean, I've basically been, like you said, I've been telling you this about your sister since the first time you wrote into me. The histrionic banks on you not calling them on their bullshit. Why? Because their histrionic behavior is like a loaded weapon that they're waving around. You want it to go off? You want me to go off? I don't really give a shit. Understand this, understand what you're dealing with. Understand this woman. She's your father. She's your father with a vagina. As I said, for 3 decades, I clung to the pleasant idea that Jane and I were not close growing up. We were now close as adults. I thought we had risen above the relentless efforts of our mother's sabotage. I even had gone out of my way to always include Jane in various celebrations and vacations with my husband and 2 kids. As we have discussed often on this channel, siblings from narcissist parents rarely grow up to be close. Siblings of narcissist parents grow up in competition for the conditional love and attention. Our sibling relationship had such a fractured foundation from childhood that anything solid we attempted to build on that foundation as adults was destined to eventually topple. Right? Right, because your relationship is built on nothing. Is built on abuse. Sifting back through my childhood memories, I have to ask, when did my sister show signs of becoming a manipulative histrionic? As I explained below, it appears she developed a histrionic behavior pattern early in childhood as a defense mechanism for the parental narcissistic abuse, whereas my inborn personality led me to deal with the pain in a completely different fashion. My parents would shout and berate my sister until she would cry, and then would castigate her for crying. Stop your crying or I'll give you something to cry about. And then, and only then, they dismiss her and allow her to run to her room. My sister spent most of her childhood and teenhood in her room, as I did, but I was not a crier. Berating my sister in stereo must have given my narcissistic parents an endorphin or an adrenaline rush like an orgasm. Whatever it was, they obviously got more satisfaction venting their anger and bitterness onto her than me, because she gave them more sadistically satisfying victim reaction. Exactly. Yep, exactly. They also treated me like shit, but they treated her much worse. So, ironically, although her perfect victim reaction gave her temporary breaks from their abuse, in the long term, it kept her in their sights as their most vulnerable target. How tragic and damaging to the development of an innocent child. My sister continued the crying behavior into her teens, but I noticed that her crying became more crocodile-like, no real tears. So to summarize, I think that although her crying as a young child almost certainly started out as genuine and perfectly normal response to the abuse, she instinctively adapted to the fact that she had to give them dramatic supply to get a brief reprieve. And then I think that victim mentality eventually became hardwired behavior program. Right. But what I think she was also doing, okay, is she's just emulating your father's behavior. Okay? Because your father is a whining fucking beta male pussy. That's what your father is. He's a whining, entitled beta male pussy who whines and cries when he doesn't get his fucking way. I think your sister takes after your dad more than, a lot. A lot. I dealt with their abuse very differently. When they were attacking me, I remember the frustration and anger, and I fantasized a lot about running away and what I would pack and where I would hide, and I plotted revenge. Once after such an ambush, I killed my mom's houseplants, and it gave me great satisfaction. That's a set of balls. Didn't blame you. See, if anything died in my, I was blamed for everything. If a houseplant died, I must have done something to it. I moved it. I opened the window. I peed in it. I don't know. I don't know. It was just insane. It's just insane. I wish I could have killed some of those houseplants. I was obviously a scientist from the young age of 9, albeit a mad scientist. I used a concentrated salt solution and felt sheer panic the next day because sparkling white crystals had formed a crust on the jet black potting soil. I had overdone it. I had not known about recrystallization. I quickly dug it in with my fingers, lest Joan notice and realize this weird phenomenon was related to the wilting of the once lush pink and red coleus she had lovingly cultivating. I am ashamed to admit that I was a bully in elementary school, and I have researched psychology literature and now understand that most school bullies are kids who are abused at home and take their anger out on other weaker kids. My sister, on the other hand, was not a bully, but rather a victim of bullying by angry kids in her class. Instead of defending herself in any way, she fully assumed the victim role and all the physical displays of weakness. She's still a child in her mind, and she's still bullying, and she's figured out how to bully you back. That's what she's doing. She's held her resentment towards you and her hatred towards you, okay? And she's going to keep bullying you in adulthood. Back then, I saw her reaction as pathetic and strange and wondered why she was so passive. I frequently walked home from school with other bullies, and we delighted in name-calling. I also bullied my sister and mimicked our parents in calling her fat. I will always have a lot of guilt for doing this. Well, this is why she hates you. I mean, you're talking about girls, sisters, and abuse. She's never going to get over that. She's not getting over it. She's not. Especially since you're the younger one. You're the younger one, and she's taking the brunt of all this. As a child, my sister also played the crying game outside her home. For example, when our piano teacher made any corrections, my sister would burst into tears, and then the rest of the lesson was Mrs. Jason consoling her and trying to reassure her that the corrections were not personal. Our piano teacher was sweet and nurturing and 100 degrees opposite of our mother. Maybe my sister's sad emotions just came out uncontrollably in this situation because it was therapeutic for her to be able to express her emotions and get sympathy rather than horrific grief, as was the case with our parents. Our piano teacher was one of the sweetest, kindest motherly people I have ever met in my life, so maybe my sister's display was genuine and uncontrolled. Or maybe she just didn't want to play the piano. Maybe she just didn't want to play the piano. I know you play. I know you're real good at it. But, I mean, she's looking at the piano as just another thing she has to compete over. Like, you're both taking piano lessons, okay? Siblings are competitive enough. Women are competitive enough. Female sisters are fucking competitive enough. You add the narcissism dynamic here, okay? And it's constant competition. It's like constant competition. That's how she sees it, because she's judged on everything. At least it may have started out that way, but in hindsight, I think maybe it developed into a manipulation behavior to try to divert attention away from the fact she had not practiced. Right, but here, she didn't want to be playing the piano in the first place. She didn't want to be, and it is a manipulation tactic. You're absolutely right. When you get these crybabies, it's a manipulation tactic. Why? Because she's being forced to do things she doesn't want to do. Her sister's calling. She's obviously fatter than you. She's overweight. She's the older one. She's getting screamed at every day. Okay? Everything's a competition, and she's being forced to do things it seems like she doesn't want to do in the first place. My sister was always very unmotivated to practice the piano, and that was probably learned from helplessness from all the parental criticism. I think she went to all her lessons with heightened anxiety because she was not prepared, and her sobbing certainly served to use up the half-hour lesson time. So why were they sending her in the first place? You liked the piano. This sounds like this girl's being forced to do something she didn't like doing. If she didn't like practicing it, it means she didn't like it. Not everybody's musically inclined. Okay, just because you're getting piano lessons doesn't mean you're ungrateful if you don't want them. I don't want to take piano. I don't like piano. There's nothing wrong with that. And that's what it seems like was going on with your sister. She wanted no part of this. I speculate about this situation because obviously there was a point in my sister's life where she started trying to manipulate people by purposely playing the victim. Probably because she couldn't say she didn't. She wasn't allowed to say, I don't want to do this. I don't want to do. It was her only way of fighting back. I mean, I think that was her way of fuck you, I'm not doing this. Because she couldn't say, fuck you, I'm not doing this. Fuck you, I don't want to play piano. I want to go do something else. Below are some other examples of my sister's histrionics over the years. Some big, some small. When I was about 20, our cousin Jerry, a musician, invited me and Jane to one of his gigs at a bar about an hour away. My sister and I drove there together. Upon arriving, my sister decided she did not want to be there and acted horribly. Again, music. Again, the music. Don't you see this is a trigger for your sister? Don't you see this is a trigger for her? And you keep bringing her around. I'm not blaming you. But you got to understand where she's coming from here. The behavior. She didn't want to be there. She didn't want any part of it. And here it is. She's probably getting triggered in flashbacks of being forced, about being a musician. As soon as we sat down, she put her head dramatically in her hands and announced she had a headache and that we needed to go immediately. I dug through my bag and was delighted to pull out a bottle of ibuprofen and thought my sister would be relieved to have some, but she waved her hand without lifting her head and yelled, I don't want any. She was a user of ibuprofen, so I queried as to why she wouldn't want to relieve her headache. She simply repeated that we needed to go immediately. It was like she turned into a 3-year-old kid. I could not believe that I needed to explain that it would be rude if we immediately jumped up and left in the middle of the first song. I could not believe that I had to explain to her that we needed to at least say hello to Jerry and his girlfriend and that we needed to be more subtle with an exit as to not be rude, and so it did not appear that we hated his music. My sister did not care about the fact that I wanted to be there, and she did not care about being rude to Jerry. She refused to compromise with me and at least try the ibuprofen or lay down in the locked car for 30 minutes so I could at least greet Jerry after a set and explain why we had to leave. Instead, she sat there, huffing and puffing, making more and more exaggerated contortions with her body and face, and it got increasingly embarrassing. And I had to get her out of there for my sake and everyone else's sake, as I realized that it would be more embarrassing to stay with her escalating shit than to walk out during the performance. You want me to tell you what's going on here? Your sister wants nothing to do with the music scene. She may say she does. She might talk to you like she does. Okay, your sister uses histrionics to get out of things that she doesn't want to do. Why? Because she wasn't allowed to fight for herself when she was a kid. So this is the only thing that she knows that works, is crying and making a scene. Instead of just saying, listen, I don't like music. I don't like music like you do. I don't like going to bands. I don't like loud places. I wasn't into the piano. I didn't want to fucking play it. I'm not playing it. This is the only way she knows how to fucking communicate. And what she's reading off you is, I don't care. I am the golden child. I'm telling you, this is what she thinks of you. She thinks you're a pampered golden child who fucking, when you complain about Lynn and, your father's name just escaped me, okay? That you're a fucking whiner. She's thinking in her head, you know what? Bitch, I had it a lot worse than you did, okay, with your bullying and you calling me fat on the way home and your nonsense and your competition that you're better at me than piano and you're better at me than this and you're better at me than that. This girl's not allowed to fight back. She had to sit there and take it off your parents and cry until she was given permission to run away. That's all she's doing. Because she's not allowed to communicate what she wants and what she doesn't want. And telling her to lay down in the car for 30 minutes, I mean, that's not really compassionate, is it? On your end? I mean, I know I said earlier you got to stop, having guilt. Okay, I see why you're kind of putting it in here. But you got to understand your sister. You got to put yourself in her shoes a little bit here. Understand something. She's done. She hates you. She fucking hates you. And she will never, ever, ever believe you've changed one bit. She still sees you as that mean girl calling her fat on the way home. And she always will. She always will. Because you still don't really understand her. This is the only way your sister was allowed to communicate, to voice her displeasure about anything, was crying and whining and carrying on. Histrionics. Because if she actually said no, then what would happen? She did not have a headache. She just wanted to leave. She was fine in the car because she got her way and again refused the ibuprofen. I vowed to never drive anywhere with her and be tied to her ever again for any event. Why didn't she act like an adult and discuss it with me so we could plan a compromise? Because she's never was allowed to have an opinion. That's why. Now that's from your parents. She was an embarrassment to me in her early 20s, just as she was when we were in middle school. She did not even try to be socially graced because she did not give a damn about other people's feelings. But what about her feeling? I mean, it seems to me your sister had some pretty strong trauma issues. Okay, and and I've told you this. She has competition issues with you. When my sister was in her mid-20s, she admitted to me that her boss pulled her aside and told her that her sullen moods were affecting everyone and she needed to knock it off. To give her credit where credit is due, my sister told me about this incident when we were discussing our mother, Joanne's bad moods, and my sister was making the point. Why did I call your mother Lynn? Joanne's bad moods, and my sister was making the point that she did not want to be like mom. Joanne, she's not like mom. She's like your dad. Joanne, who was way higher on the narcissist spectrum, could never admit any wrongdoing, whereas my sister's ability to self-reflect indicates she is much lower on the narcissistic spectrum than our mom. My sister, unlike our mother, has good friends and is generally kind to them and speaks generally kindly of them. And unlike our mom, I have never heard her gossip or talk enviously about her friends or show any delight in anyone's downfall. Right. So it's you she hates. And I understand it's you she hates. But just because she is not as toxic as our mother does not mean that she is easy to get along with or usually fun to be around. I do know that she had not dumped me. Had she not dumped me, I do know that had she not dumped me, I would have continued to put up with the toxic aspects of her behavior because it was relentless, as is the case with our mother's behavior. I do understand that I am telling the story from my point of view, and I'm fully aware that my sister went no contact with me because she finds me toxic. I can... Look, I mean, I can see it, but you don't see your sister for who she is. I mean, in her mind, maybe you are toxic to her. Maybe you are, because look, these sibling competitiveness still seems to kind of be there a little bit. Like, you don't understand, like, especially when you're the oldest. When you're the oldest and then the youngest is put on this pedestal and you got to be compared, when you got to be compared to your younger brother or your younger sister, oh, God, it's so goddamn, it's devastating, man. It's devastating. You got to understand your sister is continuing to punish you. She's continuing to punish you. Okay? And she's able to do it because you don't understand her. You don't understand. You still don't understand how fucking much she hates you. You don't get it. She wants to destroy you. She wants to fuck with your family. She's going to fuck with your kids. Just like you were calling her fat with your friends on the way home, this is what she wants to do to you. For life. For life. Do you want to put up with it? Have you apologized to her about any of this? I mean, the kids stuff. I mean, that's tough because you have to understand what is fueling her histrionics, what is fueling her hatred towards you. And you have to understand and accept it. She fucking hates you. She hates you. She resents you. She wants to punish you and keep punishing you over and over and over again. She wants to call you fat. She wants to call you ugly. She wants to ruin your day. She wants to ruin your kids' days. She wants your kids to hate you. My sister's histrionics were on full display leading up to and at my wedding. I have that detailed in a letter to this channel. Ollie's video titled "Baby Boomers Believe They Have the Right to Rain on Your Parade." Right. And that's what your sister wants to do. Because of this competition, because of this constant competition, it's just like, I'm going to rain on your fucking parade. The conclusion that I finally came to from my sister's behavior around my wedding is that she was indeed envious of me and felt the need to create disharmony and independently and in collaboration with Joanne. She wanted to sabotage my happiness in the wedding. There is no other explanation for her bad behavior. Right. And her childhood is why. She never got over it. And she still thinks about it. I guarantee you she still thinks about it. As I mentioned above, I took great pains to include Auntie Jane on various vacations with my new family. We took her on 3 trips to Cape Cod when our kids were young, and it was like having a third child. We stayed in my in-laws' condo, and Greg and I paid for all my sister's needs, including the rental car, restaurant tabs, all the wine drinks, and etc. Greg and I also did the kitchen cleaning, towel washing, running the Safeway, and food preparation. I recall one instance, it doesn't matter what you do for her. Understand something, she'll go on the vacation, she'll take the vacation, the prizes, the rental car, okay? And rationalize it in her mind, that bitch is shoving it in my face. That bitch thinks she's better than me. You can't win. You're not going to win on this one. She hates you. Doesn't matter what you do. She only doing that because she knows what she did to me as a child and won't admit it. Won't really be sorry for it. Doesn't really get it. And I do think that's fair, because I still don't think you really get it, what you did, what went on in your childhood with her and with your relationship with her. You still don't really get it. She is pissed. I've told you this. I know I've told you this. She is fucking pissed. She's pissed. And she's gonna stay pissed. Nothing you can do about it now. I recall one instance where my sister made a dramatic display of putting a pillow over her head and grumbling angrily to communicate her displeasure that our kids, aged 5 and 7, were up at 7 a.m. and had accidentally awoken her. It was a small condo, and she had to share a room with my daughter. We closed her door and snuck out of the condo and took the kids out for breakfast so she could sleep in. When we returned, she was pissed because we had breakfast without her. Right. You snuck out with the kid. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. She takes everything as an attack on her, as if you planned this. I snuck out. We could not win with her. For God's sake, right, but there's a reason why you can't win with her. Look at the history. Look at what she's been through. Look at how she learned how to voice her displeasure. For God's sake, she was a guest on our vacation, not the other way around. Right. She never bothered to thank us, as she just expected us to pay for everything. She could not even bother to send my in-laws a thank you note after staying at their place. I did imagine that on one of those trips that Greg and I might be able to slip away from a romantic dinner and leave the kids with my sister, but given that my sister would always pass out on the sofa around 7:30 p.m., we realized that was definitely not a possibility. Despite her shit on her first Cape Cod vacation, I invited her twice more because I wanted to include her, and she had no family of her own, and I felt sorry for her because of that. I don't anymore, because the fact is that not having her own family has been her choice. She never made any efforts to meet or date or flirt or stay up past 7:30 or invest to any depth in any relationship. That was her choice in life, and that's on her. She don't trust anybody, that's why. Because the only way she knows how to communicate is through misery. I've also written about my sister calling me to reprimand me right after Christmas 2017, Ollie's video titled, The Narcissist Sits on a Throne of Misery. In that incident, my sister called to shame me for not calling our parents on Christmas Day. She angrily exclaimed that our parents had been desperately trying to reach us and they thought something had happened to us and I had caused them and herself extreme worry, and here she had reached me and found me to be perfectly fine. I explained the timeline to her and how we had been in Florida and debunked the lie that our parents had been trying to desperately reach us. I even told her, I told her we even sent them a card, and so it was not the case that they had not heard from us. I explained to her that if they were not truthful to her, that was on them, and I was not to blame for her misunderstanding of the situation. Instead of her acknowledging these facts, and instead of these facts dissipating her anger, they fell on deaf ears. At that point, I realized she had an agenda, which was to shame me with the narrative that I was the bad kid, and she was going to stick to that narrative. She had not called to wish us happy holidays or because she was worried, but simply to shame me. I did not accept the shame, and that baffled and infuriated her. The histrionic narcissist is not interested in the truth. They are only interested in the narrative in which you are the villain and they are the victim. The facts be damned. Your sister believes it. Understand something. Your sister believes you're a victim. You're a villain. Your sister absolutely believes she's right and you're a villain. She absolutely believes it. She has no ability to stand up to your parents, who caused all of this. And the only way she knows how to communicate is through histrionics. She hates you. You have to accept it. She hates you. My sister acted strange prior to a trip to New York City. We had invited my sister to celebrate an event with our family and paid for an expensive hotel room for her for 2 nights. She would fly there from her state, and my husband and I would fly the same day from our state. She sent a strange barrage of urgent text messages to me the day before, complaining about how she would arrive an hour before us and not be able to get into her hotel room, and how she would be inconvenienced. True, the hotel reservations were made in my name because I was paying for her, but I assured her that she was listed with the hotel and could get a key. She did not believe me. Did she not believe me, or she was just trying to cause a drama before the event? Look, your sister has control issues, and every time you go on these vacations, you're controlling everything. Like, everything is at your will. Yeah, you're paying for it, but you're dealing with somebody who was clearly forced to do things she didn't want to do her entire life, who was infantilized pretty much by your parents, by how they treated her. Okay? And this is what she does. This is just how she reacts. I was stunned by the childishness of her trying to make a negative issue from the fact that Greg and I were paying for her $400 a night room. What was her point? What was her motive? She hates you and resents everything you do for her. She sees everything you do for her as you shoving it in her face, and she saw you getting there after her as you telling her, you're going to wait for me. You're going to wait for me. Go wait for me in your room. She did arrive before us and got into her room, no problem. She never thanked us for paying for her room and paying for all of her expensive restaurant meals, etc. She never got out her credit card to even treat me to a cup of coffee on this trip. And look, Greg and I were happy to pay for everything for her as our guest, and we did not ask her to pay us back for any of these trips. I only mention the money because it makes it that much bigger of a slap in the face to have her act so negative and immature and manipulative after all our thoughtfulness and generosity to include her in our family. You used to call her fat on the way home with your friends. It doesn't matter. You can't buy your way out of that, treasure. You can't buy your way, okay, out of making up for her childhood. You can't do it. You can't do it. You can't do it. She sees these trips as just another way for you to rub shit in her face. That's what she's taking it. She's taking it. Why? Because, like your father, she believes she's entitled to shit. This is how she gets things. But understand, she still hates you. Hated you on every trip, every second of it. Hates you. As I stated in the beginning of this letter, I originally thought Jane went no contact with me because I wanted to talk about our childhood abuse at a deeper level, and she did not. Maybe she was just not ready. However, the anger in her email revealed her deep disdain for me personally. Right? That's what I'm trying to tell you. And your own letter here explains why she has disdain for you and why she continues disdain for you, because you don't understand it yet. You still haven't grasped it, why she hates you. She's not going to get over that. You're not going to get over your little sister with her friends calling you fat every day walking home on the way home from school. You're not going to get over with your little sister being forced to take piano lessons, and your little sister's better than you, and being shoved in your face and listen to Treasure play, and what's your fuck. That's all she sees. You don't get that. When she hears you complain about your parents, she don't want to hear it. She don't want to hear it because she don't believe it from you. She'll give you little morsels of acknowledgement, but in her mind, you had it 100 times better than she ever did, and you got nothing to complain about. That's what she thinks. I now think the main reason she no longer wanted contact with me is because I had changed. On my healing journey, I had developed healthy boundaries and was a different person. I did try to bring her along with me on this journey, but ultimately I had to leave her behind, and that will always pain me. Given that my sister is a narcissist, like all narcissists, she would rather have no relationship with me than respect my boundaries. I think she did not know how to relate to the new, calmer, less anxious, more grounded in reality me. Sure she did. She went no contact with you because she didn't buy it. She saw it as a manipulation. And as you were sending her those notes of acknowledgement, kind of like, talk to whatever you were saying, you were letting her know you were still there. Feeding her supply. Once that cut off, boom, now she's going to move back in again to fuck with you. Understand, she don't buy your calmer you. She don't believe you. She don't believe you. She hates you. She wants to fucking destroy you. It's done. She's done. The relationship is done. Your parents killed it. Okay? Because your parents should have nipped that shit in the fucking butt decades ago, when they were letting you call her fat and bully her and letting you be a bully in school. I don't blame you. I blame your parents. It's clearly on your parents. But you really don't have much of an understanding of your sister's anger. And I've told you this. I've told you how much she hates you. You're still not getting it. You're still not believing it. Maybe after this, all this, it kind of sink in. I'm hoping. For sure, my sister is much, much lower on the narc spectrum than my mother, but just like our mother, she cannot she cannot extract histrionic narcissistic supply from me, then she has no interest in me. This is what it is. With great sadness, I have finally given in to accepting that I now have zero ties to my original family. You can't make this shit up. Treasure travel. I hope so. But understand why. Your sister wants to punish you for life. Why? Because she hates you. You can't help her. She don't believe you've changed. She don't buy it. And you have changed. You may have changed. But you still don't get her. You don't understand her. You say you do. You're acknowledging, yeah, she was abused. You don't understand. You weren't in that position. And I don't know if you can ever understand that. You being younger, the younger. When you're the oldest, and that shit is done to you, and when you're the oldest and your younger sibling is put on a pedestal above you and allowed to almost bully you and parent you and abuse you, you have no idea of the resentment that comes and the hatred that comes. But you can't hate them back. You got to understand them. You have to understand them. The narcissist hates you. You can't hate them. You have to understand them. And, you know, I hope you're saying that you finally accepting this, that you have no family of origin. But you have to understand why. Because they hate you. And she's always going to hate you. Because she blames you for a lot. So, I hope that helps. Thank you, Treasure, for another story and contribution. I really appreciate it. Thank you to everybody watching. Please leave any opinions or advice in the comment section below. And again, if you want your story read on the channel, you have a topic you'd like me to cover, a narcissist you'd like to expose, you'd like to have a private video made, or you'd just like to make a contribution to the channel in general to keep it supported, growing, and successful, because this channel survives 100% on contributions from all of you. Without you guys, all this goes away. And Google and YouTube are trying to make that happen sooner than later. So if you like what you see here and you want to see more videos like this, you know what to do with the PayPal and email links in the description box. Also, please like and share this video wherever you can. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't. And be sure to click the subscription bell to be notified of all my video uploads. Also, be sure to follow me on the library app, which links are available in the description box as well. I'm Ollie Matthews. This has been the Narcissistic Resistance. Take care.